solution focused customer resilience. It shouldn't say customer, it should just say resilience. There's the first profile for the day. It's all about resilience today. So let's get straight into it. And I've got a bit of a description of what resilience is. Now, of course, there's resilience, the actual description for resilience in the dictionary is about one sentence long. But I dug a bit deeper and looked for a description for within a business, okay? So, the ability to deal with continuous pressure and keep performing at a high level over extended periods of time and in conditions of ambiguity and uncertainty. Okay, so I know that's a bit of a mouthful, and there's I think my picture kind of does this best here. You're in a little bit of an umbrella, keeping all the bad stuff away from your brain. So resilience is about having that ability to be able to keep going when things are difficult, find some energy reserves, there's a resilience in the body, but there's also resilience in the mind, so we'll look at both of those things. Yes, I've just seen that, Mick. Thanks very much for pointing that out. I'm hoping those are the only two errors that are on this one this morning. I apologise. The ability to deal with the continuous pressure and keep performing at a high level. Okay? Over extended periods of time. We all get worn out sometimes, we all get worn down, we all drop our energy reserves and so on and so on and so on. And I've talked about different energy levels and zones in different sessions that I've done. So we want to kind of look at how do we keep this resilience? How is it that we can keep it up over and over and over and over again? Because, you know, things come and they start to grind us down, or we get hindering thoughts in our head, and that starts to give us problem-focused thinking, pardon the pun, rather than solution-focused thinking, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so we're going to break this down for you. I know that, again, that's a bit wordy, but in my head, it's what can we do to keep generating peak performance, even in times of adversity, when there's high pressure, lots going on, also lots of change. Remember all the work that we've done on change, and every single time I've thrown the change curve up, and you know, all the pressures that brings, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so we're going to break it down into two different sectors for today's session. The first one is about having reserves and looking after yourself, self-care. If you want resilience, self-care comes first. Okay, now we've touched on a bit of self-care in other sessions that I've done, but now we've got a section on it, because in order to have those reserves, you can't, you know, even a world-class sprinter can't sprint forever. Okay, and it's exactly the same in business. If you want to stay at peak performance and have that resilience when things are knocking you back and your day's not going well, or your week's not going well, or you haven't slept properly, or whatever it may be, self-care is what comes first. You know, people on this call know my little bit of I suppose a tale. If you're on an aeroplane and the cabin says masks will fall down, the cabin crew say if the cabin depressurizes, masks will fall down in front of you. If you're going to help somebody else, put your own mask on first. Well, that's about helping other people, but now this is about helping yourself. So in order to be resilient, you've got to put your mask on. You've got to make sure you've got oxygen coming in and out. You've got to make sure that you're looking after yourself in order to be that resilient leader, person, employee, whatever you are in the organisation, to be able to do that. It kind of starts with us. So we're going to look at that. And then also be armed. So what are a couple of the tools that we can talk about? We're going to cover something called the 7 C's of resilience later on, and also a little model that I use quite a lot. One or two of you guys might vaguely remember it. It's called pause, and it's about being resilient and calm in the heat of the moment. It's about making sure that your chemicals don't take over the logic, and you are best placed to make decisions and respond to people, and so on and so on and so on. Because when your resilience is starting to grate away, first of all, you start to feel tired, worried, sick, stressed, depressed, whichever way it comes out in you, frustrated or angry, for instance, even. And then we don't always respond in the best possible way to when things happen or people say stuff or whatever it may be that comes into it. So I've broken this I've broken this particular hour, if you like, or 50 minutes that we've got left, down into looking after yourself, and then a couple of key things to think about regarding tools for resilience. Okay, so again, any thoughts, any comments, drop them in the chat box as we go. We're going to start with self-care. Now, for those that have been coming on each one of these that I'm doing every week, we can obviously talk about self-talk, which we will, but we've done a load of work on that already. But it is one of the key things that we need to think about, but I'm not going to go into it in the detail. We did a whole session on self-talk, which we've pretty much nearly got everything uploaded now. There's going to be about 60 videos. I think the link might have already gone out. We're in the middle of putting contents together. That will happen this week, and then you will have access to loads and loads of these short little videos on the back of the hour sessions that I'm doing, as I mentioned last week. But there's loads more information on there about talking to yourself. But self-talk is the first place that we need to start when it comes to self-care. So we'll have a look at self-talk, we'll have a look at your health physical, we'll have a look at your health mental, we'll have a look at the social environment, and also taking first steps. Okay, in resilience, when something's worrying you, taking first steps and taking some action on it. Okay, that's where we start, and then we'll have a look at the tools and the techniques that we can give you before we finish. Okay, so you're in the middle of all of that, and that is quite a lot to think about, in all honesty. We don't often think about ourselves. People have been thinking, quite interestingly, people started to think about themselves more and looking after themselves more when lockdown happened. And from speaking to one or two of you, it was because maybe we were outside the culture of an office or, getting in a van and going to places or whatever it may be. And we just created a little bit more time to look after ourselves. And I've said to a couple of people, not just in Centrica, but I've said to a couple of people now going forward, if you are going out for, the lunch walk, if you are looking after yourself or doing those exercises in the morning, when you start to filter back to the office, don't stop that. Yeah, try and keep all of that kind of stuff going, because that self-care, it makes us achieve peak performance more frequently, but more importantly, it will help us with resilience when things go bad. If your resilience low, one little thing can go wrong, and all of a sudden it's like the worst thing in the world that goes wrong. If your resilience is high, you can look at it and just go, all right, okay, well, I wasn't expecting that. How do we deal with it? Also, low resilience will equal a problem-focused mindset. High resilience generally equals a solution-focused mindset. So there's a major shift in the brain, and a lot of that has to do with energy, mental and physical energy. Okay? So those are the 5 sections that surround you. And it's about looking at those, going, what can I do in order to look after myself? And I know I've had feedback when I've done this kind of stuff before, where people feel a little bit selfish for doing this stuff and kind of go, oh yeah, but I've got to do that and I can't let them down, and so on and so on and so on. If you don't do the self-care thing, if you don't spend time on you, then it's like helping somebody else without your mask on, without that oxygen flowing. At some point, they will be okay, you won't. So that self-care is, it's okay to be a little bit selfish if it's in order to make you the best version of you can be. And then, of course, you're going to be the best employee, manager, achieving peak performance, having a solution-focused mindset, and so on and so on and so on. Okay? So, self-talk. We've gone over this a number of times. There was a whole session dedicated to it. Very briefly, take a note of what you're saying to yourself when it comes to self-talk. This is specifically to do with resilience now, okay? And self-care, Okay, so if you're getting up in the morning and you're saying things like, oh, I haven't got the energy to go out for the run, or oh, I haven't had time for that run today, or I haven't had time to do that little bit of exercise, or I haven't had time to eat. How many people, and you can, I'm sure there's people on this call, drop me a little bit of a yes in the chat box. How many people before lockdown had days when they forgot to eat because they were busy doing other stuff? I'm one of them, I'll tell you that for nothing right now, okay? I'm sure there are more people. How many people got on this call? Let's have a look. 41, wow, 41, that's really up there, yeah? Sal's put, I never forget to eat. I like it, and Timothy. Tony has forgot to eat. There you go, Mick. Yeah, Lisa's put, I never forget. It depends, I think, how much food means to you, doesn't it? Yeah. My girlfriend would never forget to eat either. Food is a very, very important part of her life. But sometimes we, food is fife. Is that food is life, Timothy? Chocolate is everything. Life, thanks, Timothy. But I don't forget to drink. Yeah. So, look. If we can forget, and there are people that forget to eat, there are even on that point, there are people that forget to drink. I'll guarantee you, there are people on this call today that got into work, meant to get a brew or some water, and before you know it's lunchtime, you haven't had anything to drink. That damages the brain. Stops the brain from working. It certainly drops your resilience, and food as well. And I feel a little bit of a hypocrite, to be honest, with this comment, because a lot of the time I see food as fuel if I have to have it. And I'm not fantastic with it. The guys up in Rotherham will know this. In fact, at one point, one of the guys, I think it was Donna, that actually went out and got me food because I'd had a meeting at lunchtime and said that I didn't have time to eat, and they brought me food and made sure I ate it. Bless them. I love the fact that you're looking after me. So if we can forget to eat and forget to drink, yeah, these simple things that kind of, give us life. And, okay, if you're not one of those people that does forget to eat or drink, there will be other stuff that you will forget to do. For instance, making sure that the self-talk is right about resilience. So when you get up in the morning, instead of looking at your diary and going, oh my God, I've got that, and that, yes, you need to know what you're going to do for the day, but you also need to look at your diary and go, okay, when am I going to do what for my needs? Okay, so how much time have I got to eat? Yeah, how much time have I got to digest that food? When am I going to do my exercise today? And look, guys, I know we've had this conversation before, but when I say exercise, if you don't go for a 3-mile run at lunchtime, then I don't mean that kind of exercise. Just some kind of movement, up and down the stairs in the office, or walk around the car park, or just walk to the shop, or whatever it may be. But when am I going to do a bit of exercise? When am I going to rest properly? So this is going into the evening time now. What is it that I'm going to do to rest, rather than just letting the day go away, so you actually feel good, and so on and so on. But all of that stuff starts with how you're talking to yourself. As you all know, thinking, emotions, actions, results. So what is the self-talk in the morning? And this is a rhetorical question. Is the self-talk, you get up, oh my God, I've got a nightmare of a day, I've got so much going on, I've got no time for myself, I just need to get through the day? Or is the self-talk, I've got a busy day, what am I going to do when am I going to make sure I eat and drink, when am I going to make sure that I get a bit of 5 minutes of fresh air and a bit of exercise, because that's going to help me be more resilient, certainly if you do that at lunchtime for the afternoon when your energy starts to drop. So what is that self-talk in the morning? And it might be something that you've not thought about, because we have talked about self-talk in the past, but not specifically. We've talked about general, talking to yourself, I will be happy, I am good at this, I am great at that, and so on and so on and so on. This is now not generic self-talk, this is specific self-talk. So maybe you need a few sentences written down. on your phone, by your bedside cabinet, in your diary when you open it when you get to the office, or when you get into your home office, whatever. But what is the specific self-talk you're saying? The specific self-talk, to be honest, writing this session for you guys has really been a great reminder for me, because the eating and drinking thing, I'm not great at it, to be honest. I come into work, I'm quite enthusiastic, as you know, about what I'm doing, and before you know it, I'm halfway through the day, or it's 3 o'clock, and I think, why have I got a headache? Why have I got a headache? And it's because I haven't eaten, and probably not drunk enough either. So actually, what I did is I went and revisited my self-talk statements. And on the bottom of my, people that know me, I've got an iPad where I write my notes and stuff for the day and all that type of stuff. I have put my self-talk at the bottom of that. So when I'm getting into work, when I'm opening my little to-do list, the first thing I'm seeing is kind of, okay, you've got all of these jobs going on, which I'll show you later, because there's a nice, in the multitasking later, we'll talk about how you can prioritise your jobs and so on and so on and so on. But we've got all these we've got all these jobs to do, and we need to do them all by the end of the day. But when are you going to eat? When are you going to drink? When are you going to have 5 minutes to chill out and relax, to clear your brain, get some fresh air, or do a bit of exercise, whatever it may be? So I urge you, if you don't do that already, as one little task to take away, beginning of your day, when are you going to put that self-talk statement in? Where are you going to put those self-talk statements in order to be able to get that right? And remember, there's those 5 levels of self-talk, okay? We've gone through these in detail. Here they are as a recap. The first is negative acceptance. So some people, during what I've just been saying, when I've said you come into work, you've got a full day, and I'm saying, okay, when are you going to do your exercise? Some people might, in their head, might have gone, I can't do exercise at work. I won't have the time for that. That's the first level, remember, negative acceptance. You can always find time to do whatever you want. There might be days that you are back to back and work late. I get that. I had one of them yesterday. I think I did a 13-hour day yesterday that was in there. Today won't be any different. But if I don't work out, and yesterday I ate late, didn't drink enough. Today will be different. And the self-talk, when I came in this morning, 7:30, opened it up, jobs list, self-talk, straight there, okay, what are we going to do? But the first is I can't. The next one is I need to change this. So some of you might be in your head now going, yeah, I need to do that, John. Yeah, I need to look after myself better each day. I need to make sure I'm doing a little bit of exercise. And remember, the reason I'm saying a little bit of exercise is because when you exercise, endorphins release into your system. And endorphins, they eat away at stress. They eat away at negative chemical, make you feel better when you do this sort of thing, okay? Then you've got the decision to change. So I'm no longer doing that. So you might get to that point today, hopefully. I'm no longer going to get through the day and get to 3 o'clock and I haven't eaten. I'm not going to get through the day and make sure I haven't done any exercise or had a bit of fresh air, and so on and so on and so on. Then you have the stage of better you. I am now doing this. So that's what the self-talk needs to be. You could even say I will do, which is kind of in between the levels. I will do this tomorrow, but the only problem is tomorrow never comes, so you might need to be a bit more definite about it. And then, of course, you've got universal affirmation, which is where you're doing these things as a habit. Okay, so you just come into work and you automatically know how you're going to spend your time, where you're going to get your energy from, where you're going to get your fresh air from, and so on and so on. Pete's just put, I have a couple of post-it notes stuck to my fridge door with self-talk messages that I see every time I open the fridge, which is a lot at the moment. I like it, Pete. Fridge door is a great place to put self-talk statements. Christian's put, Pete, is that inside or the outside of the fridge? I'm assuming it's the outside of the fridge. But then again, you know, when you open it and there's a great big cake there, maybe you need one on the inside, I don't know. But the point is, that's those self-talk statements. I also know that Pete has spent some time reading what to say when you talk to yourself, which is a publication that I recommended on a session we did a few weeks ago, and that breaks these 5 levels down. But this is now specific. It's not generic self-talk we're talking about now. We're talking about specific self-talk for that, specifically you having more energy, you having more resilience. In order to do that, you've got to start with the self-talk and then take some action on the back of it. Okay? So that self-talk, then we can have a look at your health physically. Now, I've talked to you about exercise. I did it in the self-talk bit, didn't I? I quite like this picture. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a guy with a lifting bar with files at the end of the bar. The whole point of that picture there is that you can do exercise when you're at work. Okay, a lot of people think, oh God, no, to do exercise, I'm going to need to take my running kit. I'm going to need to then make sure I run, and then I'll probably want to shower, and then I need to do that, and then I won't have time to eat because I only get so much time at lunchtime. And it's all just made up excuses. That's what it comes down to. To exercise, walk around the car park. Yeah, get a couple of files, lift them over your head for 5 minutes. It doesn't really matter. The point is that you get the endorphins moving in the body, because if the endorphins start to move, it will eat away at that negative chemical. And there are a couple of guys on this session today. I'll just have a look. Yeah, a couple of guys on this session today that I've talked with over the last few weeks during lockdown, all that type of business. And they've been going out for walks and runs and stuff while they've been working at home, and they felt loads better for it. Loads better for it. You might be thinking that I'm over-egging this bit. I'm over-egging it because that endorphin release is better than anything else. Because the other thing that people try and do to give themselves more energy or feel better is put chemicals in their body, coffee, Red Bull, things like this, which gives you short-term, they're actually all a little bit depressive, those chemicals, but they give you a short-term hit. To maybe you just need some more to get through a meeting. The only problem with that is that it drops off unless you have another one. And then, of course, we all know what happens if you have 10 coffees or 10 Red Bulls during the day. Not very, very useful. So that natural endorphin release is really quite useful. We've got a couple of comments here. Lisa, I run before work each day. It helps massively. Thank you, Lisa. I can't agree more. I normally go out either before work, or if it's an early start for me, as soon as I get back in. And sometimes I don't feel like running, but I just go for a walk instead. That's okay, no problem. Kev says I go out for a walk to get away from the wife and the kids for a few hours. I know that's a bit tongue-in-cheek, Kev, but when you've got solitary time on your own, your thinking is released as well. So that's why it's quite useful to be able to do that sometimes. Standing and stretching while watching this, Martin. Lovely. Fantastic. Martin's even doing it whilst you're on this call today. So look, there's some great examples there, guys, and I'm really pleased to hear that a lot of people are doing this already, but it will massively help when it comes to resilience, okay? Because the better you are, yeah, Christine's put good idea, Martin, like it. The fitter, the healthier, the better you feel, the more resilience you're going to have. Do a health MOT. Okay, you might need one. If you Google, excuse me. There we go. If you Google anything about resilience and being resilient, you'll find that people, self-care is one of the first things that comes up in order to be resilient. Yes, there's a couple of tools and techniques I can give you at the end. I'll do that. Excuse me, it's going on today, isn't it? But they talk about a health MOT. So basically, just check everything's okay. Make sure you're healthy. You know, if you've got a bit of a, you know, twinge in, you know, let's say, you know, I've got a bit of a bad shoulder for argument's sake, and it's plagued me for years. If that plays up, that also pulls on my resilience a little bit. If you've got a toothache for argument's sake, you know, that's not going to make you as resilient as you go, because that constant kind of drain. So the reason I've put that up there is just, you know, if you've got any niggles or whatever, I know it's easy to live with stuff like that, you know, and sometimes we have to live with it. I give you that. Sometimes, you know, things can't be changed. But if you've got anything little aches or pains or stuff that, you know, is in the back of your head or play up everything, just do a little bit of a health MOT. Go and try and find ways to help you get better or fix it or live with it better or, you know, deal with the pain or whatever, and so on and so on and so on, you know. I did this recently. I've had an issue with my shoulder for years and years and years and years, probably 15 years now. And progressively, I hate to say it as I'm getting older, it's getting a little bit worse. And it got to the point where it was starting to drag, and I noticed it was starting to really get me down, and obviously that reduces resilience. So I went into the doctors, got a referral, MRI scan on the way. Okay, so, you know, is it fixed yet? No, but I feel better already because I'm doing something about it, and that also comes into those first steps that we're going to talk about there. Your conscious mind is on 16 hours a day. If you sleep 8 hours. If you sleep less, then it's on more. If you sleep more, then it's on less, of course. That is quite a lot of time that it's on. But that's your filter, that's your perception, okay? So in order to look after yourself, self-talk, mental health, physical health, it's about keeping that brain active. Your subconscious mind is on 24/7. Okay, so that's even on while you're asleep. So your brain is like any muscle in your body. When you use it a lot, it gets worn out. Okay, now don't get me wrong, you can use your muscles a bit and you can grow them, but if you overuse them, if you over-exercise, then you're going to damage your muscles. And it's exactly the same with the brain. So my question to you is, when do you give your brain a break? And it's a rhetorical question, you don't have to answer it. If you've got an answer, great, pop it in there. But the point is, when do you give your brain a break? If your brain is on even when you're asleep, when and how can you give your brain a break? Well, whilst you're physically exercising, you might still be thinking of stuff, but at least you've got a better chemical in your system, so your brain isn't as taxed at that point. The point I'm getting to is mindfulness. And some people on this call might still today think mindfulness or the frame mindfulness or well-being or mental health well-being is all a bit pink and fluffy, okay? Look, what mindfulness aims to do is, when your brain is focused on 7 to 9 things at once on every 7 seconds, okay? So remember that, 7 to 9 things at once going in your head every 7 seconds. What mindfulness tries to do is bring you down to one thing. Getting you to focus on one thing. And some people on this call today will already do mindfulness and not know it's mindfulness. So if you take your dog for a walk to clear your head, you might get lost in some music and you're only focused on the music. You might have a bubble bath with candles around and just chill out and calm down. One of the main things with mindfulness is focusing on the way you breathe, because it focuses you just on one thing. The point I'm making is mindfulness is really, really useful in resilience. Okay, because it's not just your physical body that needs looking after and resting and so on and so on and so on. And yes, you need the right self-talk to plan all of that stuff out, but it's also the brain that needs a rest. And the brain benefits from mindfulness. Calm. If you want to go as far as meditation, that's absolutely fine. One of the most calm and effective people I have ever met was the managing director of Boots, the chemist, many, many years ago. His name was Pradip Patel. And he used to get up at 3:30 every morning and meditate for an hour and a half every day before he went to work. and he was a very, very, very calm person, very effective. And he used to think, and he didn't go to bed at 8, 9 o'clock at night. He had energy all day. If there was an evening event, he would be there, but he would still get up and meditate for an hour and a half every day. His response when people used to say, "Aren't you tired?" and he used to say, "Well, meditation is better than sleep." He said, "I get more rest meditating than I do when I'm asleep." And the science would argue that as well, because when you're asleep, your brain's going, it's just not in order. When you're meditating, you're trying to focus on one thing rather than several things that your brain's going through, all your dreams and why people have weird dreams and so on. Now, I'm not for a moment suggesting everybody wants to meditate for an hour and a half every day, but you might want to think a little bit about how you can calm your mind once a day. Just calm it, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes. There are apps that you can do that do this for you now, or you can just go out and calm your mind and so on and so on and so on. Okay? So, mental health, we need to look after that as well in order to be more resilient. Okay? Form a habit, form repetition. So, if you are going to meditate or find something to do, mindfulness, the best thing you can do is do it roughly at the same time every day, in the same place if possible. Okay? So if you can do that bit of mindfulness, my mindfulness actually got a little bit screwed up a little bit when lockdown happened, because I used to do my mindfulness. I used to drive to where I was going, park up outside. In fact, some of the guys in Rotherham probably seen me doing this. Park outside, I'd always be early, and then I'd put my little mindfulness app on, and for 10 minutes I'd just sit there, calm my mind, just focus on one thing, and it made me feel brilliant for the rest of the day. However, when lockdown happened, I stopped driving and I fell out of the habit, and I had to then find a new way of doing it. So if you're going to do it, try and do it 5-10 minutes in a habit. Okay, try and make it a habit, right? The next one is social environment. Okay, the social environment, happy people. Okay, if you want to be more resilient, then mix with more Freudian slip there, optimistic people, happier people. Okay, we know that feelings and emotions are infectious, don't we? Yeah? So if you can mix with those types of people, if you can mix with other resilient people, even ask them how they do it, then you will probably find that you feel better. And if you feel better, you are more resilient. It's as simple as that. If you feel better, you are more resilient. So just try and pick the social environment you're in. And I know that might be difficult at the moment. People are still locked down and there's only a few people maybe in the office, and I get all of that stuff. But just this is a focus on going forward. Okay, going forward, yeah? So just think about that. Choose who you spend your time with. Okay? If there are any naysayers, if there are any energy drains, yes, and we all know they are, then remember, try to not let them walk through your mind with their dirty feet. I know you might have to deal with these people sometimes, I get that, but you don't have to overly spend your time with them, because you don't need that kind of negative energy going in to the brain with that. Seek out positive messages, okay? That's quite an important one. If you look for bad things, you'll find them. If you look for good things, you'll probably find them as well. Thinking, emotions, actions, results. So go, if you got up this morning and went, oh, I'm knackered. Oh, I'm so tired and I've got to deal with that and I don't feel like that today. And, oh, God, then guess what you're probably going to find for the day? You're going to find problems. You're going to find things that are going to make you more tired. You're going to be less confident, rather than going, I know I've got a busy day, but let's look for the great in it. Let's look at what we can get at the end of the day. What learning can we take from it? So on and so on and so on. Okay? And of course, other positive people help you with that. They might include colleagues, but they might also include people you don't know, or people you know of. So, for instance, we've had feedback on some of these sessions that we've been running, like this one now, that actually people have enjoyed the content, But as a byproduct, because people have been working at home and stuff, it's been a nice break. It's been quite nice to get a bit of positivity for an hour, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah? Martin's just put a comment, I'll come on to it in a moment. So you don't just have to go to other people to help you make you feel positive. Come on something like this. If you get 10 minutes at lunchtime, go on TED Talks. Some people have come across them, TED.com or TEDTalks.com, I think. Find TED Talks. There are little clips of some very inspirational people. And if you don't want to go that far, just go onto YouTube and put Muhammad Ali in. People like that are going to just let you watch some, just make you feel better for 5 minutes and just give you a bit of oomph, yeah? So it's not just people, you're not just seeking out positive messages from people that you know, you can seek out positive messages from people you don't know. We've got the internet at our fingers, haven't we, yeah? So we've got all of that as well, okay? Now, we've got a comment. How do you differentiate between positive, negative people and happy and depressed people? Well, positive people will generally be happy and negative people will generally be depressed. It depends what type of depression. I don't want to get into this in too much detail. If it's clinical depression, that's something very different. That is a misfiring of neurons in the brain, different chemical balances in the brain. But if it's general depression, then you will know they are negative because it's the negativity that's driving the chemical. Remember? So it's the hindering thoughts that are driving the chemical. Thinking, feeling. Okay? So electrochemical in that order. And when people are depressed, they are negative. They struggle to see the positive. When people are happy, you will generally find that they are looking for the positive that are in there. So it all comes back to that tear cycle. It comes back to the self-talk right at the beginning, Martin. How do you differentiate between those two? That's quite challenging. You might have to ask them. You might have to speak to them. All you're seeing is behaviour. Remember, for those that have seen me do the tree or the iceberg, behaviour in the iceberg, it is the top, above the water level, because it's the only thing we see of other people. We don't see their feelings, we don't see their thoughts, we don't see their beliefs, and we don't see their attitudes. It's all below the water, okay? So we don't see that, which means you might have to do a little bit of detective work that comes onto it. We've got a few more comments here. Aaron, don't be silly, crisps are not part of your 5 a day. Jaffa cakes are. The tears of a clown. Yeah, well, Kev, great example. You got a clown with a tear. Yeah, brilliant. My point being, shouldn't avoid negative people if they are depressed. They need the opposite. Yes and no, Martin. Okay. What I'm saying here, remember, this is about self-care, and we've done loads of other work about motivating others. Okay, and being positive around others. I get all of that, yeah? But for this particular example, it's about self-care and your resilience. And sometimes, if your resilience is low, you might not have the energy to try and help somebody else with their negativity, and it's going to make you worse. So there's a time and a place where we want to motivate other people, help other people, change their thoughts from negative or hindering to helpful, and you can do that, absolutely. But there's also a time where you need to be a little bit protective of yourself, and that's where the self-care comes in. And I know that might sound like I'm contradicting myself, but there are times that you need to go, do you know what? I just need to look after myself for the next 20 minutes, and I don't need that right now, so I'm going to park that, because I'm not going to let them walk through my mind with me dirty feet. I'm going to deal with this, and then when I'm feeling a little bit more resilient, I can tackle the negativity over there. So hopefully that's okay. Martin, great, thanks for your comment. Spend a week in my house. Every time I leave, you will see my wife go from despair to happy. I like it. You can't, yeah, Sal's just put, you can't pour from an empty cup, as they say. It's a really good point, and that's why put your own mask on first. So I think, Martin, you make a really, really, really good point about, yes, we should be helping other people. Yes, we should be helping other people with their hindering thinking to helpful. But occasionally, if you're, as Sal's put, if your cup is low, self-care comes first before you do that. Okay? Really, really good comments, guys, today. Really good comments and questions. Okay, so take action. When you're low in resilience, taking action actually can make you more resilient. Okay, so it's one of the things that can help you. It also stops worry. It also stops you making things up in your head. Okay, so if you're feeling a bit low or a bit worried, or your resilience is low about one particular area or a particular goal you're working on or whatever, by taking action, it can make you feel better automatically. Okay, procrastination, the thief of time. Okay, now we could use this in much more detail. Just on that point alone, we could do a session around time stealing and procrastination and how it stops you from, it stops you dead in the water and so on and so on. So if you are feeling a little bit like that, taking a first step, taking some action actually makes us feel better. It actually gives us more resilience once we've done the first thing. Yeah, so if you've got something that you're thinking, oh, do you know what, I don't know if I can take that today. I've had such a bad day, I just don't know if I could take that right now. The resilience is low. If you actually go and just do one thing towards that, it will make you feel better, happier, more confident, have more energy, and of course all that adds up to resilience at the same time. Yeah? Take one step. That one step will lead to several steps, or that one task will lead to several tasks. For those that remember the Make Your Bed clip, that I've used before, the Admiral talking about if you want to change the world, yeah, first thing you can do is make your bed. That one task completed will lead to several tasks completed during the day, and by the time you've got to the end of the day, you have several tasks completed, you feel better, and if you should have a bad day, when you get home, you have a freshly made bed to get into. Now, he said that originally, and then during lockdown, somebody overlaid his speech with somebody that was really depressed because they'd lost their routine. Okay? Their resilience was very, very low. They had a phone call off their mother and they knew they didn't want to talk to them. I couldn't take it. Yeah? And the whole point of the video was actually get up, make your bed, then do one thing, then do another thing, then do another thing, then do another thing. And as you keep completing those tasks, your resilience for life will be completed. Okay? Procrastination, and I'm sure you've all been through this when you've had a job to do, not just at work, maybe at home. Maybe it's been a difficult conversation you've had to have with somebody, or maybe it's been something you haven't particularly liked to do, and you've procrastinated on it. It knocks your resilience. Once you've done it, once you take the step, your confidence increases again, and your resilience increases there. So, those 5 things are all about self-care. Okay, and we spent most of the session talking about that because that is the big one when it comes to resilience. Looking after yourself will simply, whether that's talking to yourself, physical surroundings, people that you're around, taking action, doing the health MOT, making sure you're exercising, making sure your diet's right. If you do all of that, you will automatically be more resilient, especially at the times that are difficult. Okay? It's easy to be resilient when everything's going well. When times are difficult, that's where you really need it. So, just for the last 10 minutes, I want to give you a couple of things to think about, maybe more tangible tools to take away regarding resilience. So, we've got now something called the 7 C's, the 7 C's of resilience. Okay? Let's have a look at them here. So, first one, competence, understanding. What will help your resilience is knowledge. If you are not feeling very resilient, if you are feeling knocked down, if you are feeling under the weather, whatever it may be, one thing that will help you feel more resilient is learning about 2 things. Learning about resilience in the first place, like this session today. So learning what resilience is and what you can do to increase your resilience, that's the first thing. And secondly, making sure you've got the knowledge around the things that are knocking you down. So if there's stuff that's knocking you down, make sure you've got the knowledge around those things, because it will make you feel more confident in the first place. So the first C that we need to cover to be more resilient is competence and understanding. Being able to be competent enough to know about resilience and then do something about it, and competent enough to deal with the things that are knocking you down and take some action on it. Okay, so that's the first C. Then we have confidence. Okay, and again, that comes into learning and understanding. If you are not confident at something, resilience will be low. It's like an automatic equation. Okay, when your confidence is low, resilience is low. When you are highly confident, you are more resilient. It's a simple equation that they just work hand in hand when it comes to it. Okay, so the question is, how can you build your confidence? Well, there's a couple of things that we can do to build confidence. The first is again learning all about it. So if you've got a task that you're trying to achieve and you're not very confident, learn more about it. Okay? So there's one choice we can always make when you're not very confident, and that's learn more about the subject. If you learn more about the subject, you will feel more confident. It's as simple as that. When you know more, when you have more knowledge, you feel more confident. Yeah? A little bit like public speaking. You know, people generally hate to do public speaking, but they're asked to do a presentation. They're not very confident about it. What they do is they put the presentation together they need to do, rather than go and research a little bit about public speaking and how they can come across to make themselves feel better. Yeah? So, number 2, increase confidence. Learn as much as you possibly can. Number 3, connection, relationships. That goes back to the who are you going to be talking with that are other optimistic people that can help you? Who are you going to be hanging around with that you can learn from their resilience? Okay? And remember, resilience is different for different people. So you might have a high red resilience that is a fight mentality. Okay? And you might have maybe a high green resilience that is a calm, reflective mentality of resilience. So remember, resilience is going to be different for different people depending on their profile. But you choose who you're going to talk to. Choose who you're going to hang around with, because all of that stuff will go in. Yeah? And I know there's a certain degree of you have to deal with the people you work with. I get that. But you can choose who you let in, remember.